Okay, so you will see when you register for SimNet, $45 is a 2-week free trial if you decide to use a free trial. You log into SimNet, you have to find my class. So unfortunately, it should is bmcc.cuny, right? So it should just know, oh, you're a student, Brightspace, so on and so forth. It doesn't link up. So SimNet is a separate software. It's not linked up to Brightspace. It doesn't know that you are in my class. It has no idea who you are. It just knows you're a BMCC student. So when you register for SimNet, which is Excel, the Excel worksheets teaches you how to use Excel. When you register for SimNet and you have access to SimNet, you have to find my class. So you could search for enroll in a class. So it's like a search function. You need to type in our class. That class I listed on the announcements. You also see here, Business 104, Office 2019. This is the section we're in, all right? We're in Business 104, CH02, Section 2. Professor Washington, Spring 2025 or SPR 2025. So you would need to type in my name, Washington, SPR 25, or any part of this, and it'll search and find my class. And then you enroll in my class. That's how you enroll in the SimNet. If you're having trouble doing that, if you establish a SimNet account prior to this meeting, if you're not able to find my course or you're having trouble enrolling in my course, send me an email. I can, once you register with SimNet, I can grab your profile. I can pull you into our course. Just my emails on the net is the front page of the Brightspace, the profile of my face. You can click on, you don't need to click on, you'll just see my email there. So once you're registered and you're in to my course, you will then see the work here. All right. So you actually start here where it says group. You click into it and you'll see the lessons. Click on the lessons, right? Lesson 1, lesson 8, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, so on and so forth. The lessons are show, follow, and do. So first it shows you how to do it, then you follow what they do, and you do it yourself. And you go through all the lessons, and each lesson has its appropriate exam. So if you do 1A, take the 1A exam afterward. Do 1B, take the 1B exam afterward. So you'll see these are all dated for to do today, but even if you submitted late, I won't penalize you on the points, so don't worry about it. But think of it this way. You should be completing this section in February, this section in March, and this section in April, right? And then you have May to finish your project. That's kind of how you pace it. February, March, April, May. The project requires you to download the file, follow the instructions on how to follow the instructions. This might not make sense right now, but when you complete the assignments, this will make sense. This is everything you did on the exams and the assignments for SimNet. Make sure you complete it on the same worksheet you download. Don't use a different Excel worksheet. It's got to be the one that SimNet gives you because it's coded to your user ID and information. This is to prevent cheating. So the same Excel file that you download, that's the worksheet you work on to do this. You complete it, you submit it, you upload it. It'll give you a grade. You could change it, resubmit it, try to get a better grade if you want. If you get over a 90, you get a certificate, a digital virtual certificate. You could put it on your resume. It's a link you put on your resume. Not required, but helpful. I said this in the class before. I'll say it again. The SimNet material, which is Excel, learning how to use Microsoft Excel, is practical real-world experience, practical real-world information that you can put in your resume. You can say, I know how to use Excel, Excel savvy, or familiar with Excel, intermediate Excel skills. If you get a 90 on it, you can say expert Excel skills, Excel skills, and then show your certificate. Okay. My recommendation is work on these 3 parts over the course of the semester, February, March, and April. Then I would recommend you finish all of your major assignments. Make sure you've completed your midterms, which is starts week 7 into week 8. Finish your midterms, finish your finals, finish your career project. Do those things first. They're much bigger parts of your grade. Obviously, your connect is important as well as your discussion boards. Get that out of the way first. Do this project last. I say that because some students they get really caught up in the project. They can spend a week or two working on it, and then they forget to do the rest of their assignments and they get burnt out. So this entire thing is this project, this thing here is worth the same percentage wise as doing these 3 assignments. So this is only like 2.5% of your grade. Maybe they changed it. Maybe it's a little more. Maybe it's 5% now. Uh, but your final project, your career research project, is 20% of your grade. Your midterm is 20%. Your final is 30%. That's 75% of your grade between midterm, final, 75% of your grade. So so if you put all your effort into completing SimNet, you're not really getting a whole lot of credit, right? Then you could be burnt out or tired or juggling your 4 other classes, and it's not smart. So I recommend saving the project till the very last thing you do. If you don't complete it, you can still get an A. If you do perfect on everything else, you can still get an A, right? So don't kill yourself on the project. I think you should work on the project for your own benefit, right? Professional benefit. But don't feel like I see students trip up on the final project. Okay. So don't kill yourself on it. That's my official word. But do these 3 things because that teaches you how to really use Excel in a functional manner. Okay. Any questions in regards to SimNet? No?
Uh, I got one.
Go ahead.
Is there a way that we're able to see like our grades or uh like where we stand in the course? Like,
Yeah. So your work on Connect gets graded automatically when you complete it on Connect.
okay,
Then it's supposed to pull directly to your Brightspace. If you are completing your Connect assignments, so week 1, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 so far, right?
yeah,
If you've
Yeah.
done that and you see grades, you should be able to go to Brightspace and click on grades, and you should see those grades on Brightspace.
okay,
If this is for all the students listening, if you do not see your Connect grades show up on your Brightspace grade book, please email me and let me know. Sometimes they don't sync up. They just don't sync. That's how it is. And then you're thinking, you're doing well, and then I look and it seems like you're not doing any work. I have to go into SimNet, I have to go into Connect and look to see if there's a syncing issue. And it happens all the time every semester. There's almost nothing I can do about it. So just let me know. So that's supposed to be syncing to your Brightspace. All the exams and things you're taking, like when you take your midterm and final, those are not Connect finals and midterms. That's actually on our Brightspace. It's an exam I made. You click a link when you get to that part. When we reach that week, you take the exam. Those grades will show up. The grades that have not shown up yet is going to be your discussion board. You will not see the grades until I physically grade your discussion boards. So, which is because you do it on Brightspace, right? You do discussion boards on Brightspace. So you won't see that until I physically do it. Okay. But Connect, you'll see, right? Any exams you take on Brightspace, you'll see. But I have to physically grade your discussion board. I have to physically grade um, your projects. And then the midterm and final, which I created for this course, is automatically graded through the system because I keyed in the answer key. It does the work for me. If there's an issue, I have to manually go in there. So does that answer your question, or is there any issues that you think may be present with your grades?
yeah, that's good. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're quite welcome. So let me know if it's desyncing, if you're not seeing it. For anyone that came in late, SimNet is active. The link is on the announcements. This is our course. You have to search for this course. So you have to type in this course and find it and then register for my course. If you can't do it or you're having issues or you're assigned in the wrong course, email me. I can pull you into our course. SimNet's $45, but there is a 2 week free trial. It should look like this when you get into SimNet. You should see these assignments. Okay. February, March, April, May. That's how it is. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to move on to our lesson. Let me change screen sharing. Okay. If you have any questions, so usually when we do like a virtual Zoom meeting, students raise their hand, but to be honest with you, I may not see you raise your hand because it's virtual. So there's not a lot of us in the classroom. There's only a handful of us that are here today. Even when we're in live class, there's only about 6 or 7 of you guys. So if you have a question, just unmute yourself and just say, "Hey, professor." You can interrupt me. It's okay. All right, it's fine. I prefer that actually because now it's not like there's 20, 25 students here and everyone's talking at the same time. So it's okay. So if you have a question, interrupt me. All right, and just ask your question. Unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay, so we touched on a lot of this already. I almost feel like it's redundant in some ways. But maybe I'll just spend 5 minutes on this and we'll jump into the next chapter, which is week 4, because it's week 4 now. So this is just pretty much global trade. Let's just get into here. So this is sort of a definitions that you would see on the exam: comparative advantage, absolute advantage. Comparative advantages is where a country is selling more of its goods than it is producing, right? So a country should sell to other countries those products that it produces most efficiently and buys from countries those products it cannot produce as effectively or efficiently, right? And that's comparative advantage. So for example, uh, China is really good at manufacturing, right? So since they're really good at manufacturing, should they be buying manufactured goods? No, they should manufacture it themselves. So it's better for them to purchase raw materials and manufacture the goods themselves, right? In America, we're not so good at manufacturing raw stuff, but we're great at creating things, right? Innovating, creating stuff like that. So I said this in my other class, but Apple, for example, you can find China has Apple has their own iPhone, has their own line of phones, Chinese made phones. They're just as fast as the Apple phones. They're way less expensive too. So you might be saying, "Oh, well, why would I buy an overpriced Apple phone when I can get a much cheaper Chinese made phone?" Right? And yeah, obviously, maybe it's the market isn't here or whatever. Um, but the real issue, the comparative issue, is that why is the Apple phone so expensive, right? So you'll see that Apple doesn't have a big market share in China, and you're like, why? Right? They make great phones. What's going on? And the reality is that China doesn't really innovate that much. They copy. China does the manufacturing. So Apple does not manufacture their own products. They design and innovate in the US. Then they send those designs to be made in China. Look at your Apple phone. It says made in China. And they try to be funny, right? They'll say, "Oh, designed in California, made in China," right? So China builds and makes Apple phones, right? It's built in China. The Chinese can just copy that, right? They just copy it and make a cheaper, maybe inferior product or the same product for way less. So why don't you just buy Chinese phones? So the first issue is that Apple spent a lot of labor not physical manufacturing labor, design labor, intellectual property labor, research labor, researching, creating, designing software, uh, creating new software. That's where a lot of their labor cost goes into creating something new, creating something original, creating something no one has, something that's never been created, innovating it, and then having it manufactured somewhere else because it's cheaper to do that. And then they sell it here and all over the globe. So when you see an iPhone, you say, why is that iPhone so much more expensive than a Chinese version that's just as fast, does the same thing? Because the Chinese version didn't have to spend time innovating anything, researching anything. They just copied it. So all that time hiring software engineers, tech designers, all these tech people just to design and innovate. That's billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of billions of dollars just to innovate something new, original, and creative. But once you do that, you can just look at the phone and copy it, right? It's called reverse engineering because China's the one that's manufacturing. They never made it. They make it, but they didn't create the designs. So China copies it. All right. They're good at that. They're very good at not creating original things and copying America's stuff. All right. They're number one at that. It's just the truth, is what it is, right? So that's why you see a Chinese phone come out a little bit after the American phones or the Samsungs come out, and their version is a faster, sometimes faster because some new chips came out. They copy all the new technology, the innovation. They do the manufacturing and they make it real cheap, but they spend zero resources innovating or pioneering new stuff. Okay, so that would be China's comparative advantage, right? American comparative advantage, complete opposite. They're great at innovation and creating new things. So an
Uh,
absolute advantage. Go ahead. Did I hear someone or no?
yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
then, but so I mean, is Apple not allowed to sue like some?
Yeah, sure. Okay, good, great question. Yes, of course. So this is an issue, an age-old issue between China and the US, right? It's called patent laws. So patent rights and patent laws are rights where I create something new and original. You say to me, "Oh, well, that's a cool thing," and I file a patent, and I can't copy it for a certain amount of years because the patent rights prevent me from copying it legally. If I copy your trademark infringement or patent copyright issues, just music, same thing, right? Oh, that's his lyric, that's his beat, you stuff like that, right? After a certain period of time, those copyright protections fall off. Then it's fair game for everyone. The copyright protection or the protection of intellectual property is almost a constitutional foundation of American innovation. The idea is this: if you come up with a really great, innovative idea, right? And then someone copies it. Are you motivated to create that idea because you just spent a zillion dollars innovating to create that idea? No, right? If I hire a bunch of researchers to do research on a new medicine, and you could spend doctors are expensive. Medical researchers are expensive. You could spend hundreds of millions of dollars researching a new drug. Um, Going through FDA trials, level one FDA trial, level two FDA trial, to get approved, to then get it to the market, and then someone just says, "Oh, that's a cool drug." They just look at it under a microscope and copy it,
Yeah,
sell it for nothing. So you spend a billions of dollars making it, and then someone can copy and sell it. So the idea of intellectual property protection is that other people can't copy your stuff for a certain period of time because it's your intellectual property. You thought of it, you created, and you have time to recoup your investment research through intellectual patent rights. So now you have time to sell the product with no competition to gain capital advantage, right?
yeah,
So the question you're asking is, does this apply overseas? And I'm going like this. It depends on the country. It depends on their agreements with the U.S. Sure, they could sue it, but what is China say? Oh no, we made that ourselves. Prove that we copied you,
Yeah.
right? So that's what China does. They look at your stuff, they re-engineer it, and they just copy it. But then how can you say they didn't copy it? So so yes, you could file a suit in Chinese court against an agency, a government. Yeah, the America has America sues China, China sues America. Whatever. You could do that, and there's agreements between China and America in terms of court agreements, how we do things, what we do. Yeah, sure. But it's the Chinese government that bankrolls and funds big tech in China. So they're gonna be like, oh, we didn't copy. That's literally what they say. We didn't copy it. Then you go to court and do what? Sue the Chinese government. What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
What's gonna happen? What are you gonna do? Nothing, right? You know how many times China has hacked the US government and the US government's hacked China? They go, it's whatever. It's whatever. So globally, some countries are more respectful. China is not respectful about that, and they lie about it. They deceive about it. They get around it. They might not copy your iOS. Like they're not using Apple iOS. They're not using your iOS, right? Because that's a copyright infringement. Oh, you copied our iOS. They don't do that,
Yeah.
but they'll copy what they can copy and redo it. So they didn't copy it, right? But then they didn't have to spend all that money trying to engineer new creative ideas. So that's what it is. So to that point, though, um, that's why you have what's called trade secrets. Trade secrets are secrets that a company may have that they don't patent nor copyright because they don't want anyone to ever know ever.
Okay.
Okay, so an example of a trade secret is the recipe to Coca-Cola, right? There's no patent to that. You won't find Coca-Cola patent. So the Coca-Cola recipe is a quote unquote mystery. It's not really a mystery, but it's a mystery. Okay. So that's why they've never patented the Coca-Cola because after a certain amount of years, then it becomes public, and then at some point it becomes public domain. So Steamboat Willie, which is a Disney character, officially became public domain. Is no longer owned by Disney. It's like a variation of Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
And then Disney's be very creative in ways of bypassing uh, copyright protection laws to artificially extend their copyright rights. Most Disney products and services, they should be open free domain. But Disney's been able to sort of bypass that through some clever legal stuff. But they can't. They only, I think, for 100 years or something, or 50 years. I don't remember. Anyway, so that's sort of explaining that scenario. Absolute advantage is where a country has a monopoly on producing a specific product or is able to produce it more efficiently than other countries, right? So I gave an example of the bananas. A country can monopolize another country. Um, Sometimes a country's monopoly is because they're just so good at something, or maybe there's something specific about that country. They're the only places that you can grow or make something, and sometimes it's just the situation, right? So anyway, balance of payments is the difference between money coming to a country and money leaving the country from imports and exports. So what's an import and what's an export, right? And let me see if I can find the exporting. Okay. So exporting is where you are sending out a product or a service. Okay, that means um Toyota, Japan, right? When you buy a Japanese car, it's not Toyota's not made in the US. I mean, they do have so Japan actually has like US manufacturing and an arm. They do things and they build things in the US. They do that. But it is a Japanese company, right? So an example of exporting would be like a better example is buying Japanese rice, right? So the rice was grown in Japan, it ships into Japan, from Japan to America, you're bringing in the rice into the American soil. That is importing, okay? But from the perspective of Japan, they are exporting. So it's based upon the perspective of you, your country. So Japan is sending out their product overseas. They're exporting out their product. America is refining oil in the US and selling it. They are exporting their oil. They're selling steel and produce to different countries. They're exporting out their product, right? So if Mexico is selling avocados, they are exporting their avocados to other countries, right? So it's the perspective of the country. They're selling and sending out of the country their product. Bringing in products and services into the country is importing. So America's importing. They also import oil, right? So that's the funny thing about America. It imports oil and it exports oil at the same time. Reason being is America is one of the most efficient manufacturers of oil, which I mentioned in class last time. So that's an interesting situation where they're both importing and exporting the same product, but different variations of the product because of the manufacturing that goes behind it. So remember that definition. Import is when you are bringing in something into your country. Exporting is when you're sending something out. And it's from the perspective of the country you're talking about, right? So if we're in Japan and we're sending out rice, we're exporting rice. If we're in the US and we're receiving Japanese rice, we're importing the rice. Okay? So that's how you understand that. All right. So we'll look at this real quick. So strategies for reaching global markets, the least amount of commitment, control risk and profit to the most. So licensing, let's say, for example, NFL. You license NFL in Japan. I don't think they watch NFL in Japan, but just use an example. Maybe in the UK somewhere, I don't know. NBA, for example, maybe someone in India, they watch NBA. Who knows, right? So you can license NBA products, and let's say I wanted to sell NBA product. Oh, Disney's even a better example, right? Let's say I want to make a game, a Disney game, a board game, and I'm in Pakistan and I want to sell it. Maybe Disney doesn't sell their products, but I say, oh, there's a market for it. I want to license your Disney name brand or a Moana product or a Mickey Mouse or something. I want to put his likeness or her likeness on a board game and sell it in Pakistan. That's licensing, right? We went over exporting. You're probably familiar with franchising. McDonald's is a franchise. Contract manufacturing is what Apple does, manufacturing their stuff in China. International joint ventures, I'm going down this line here in case you're wondering. Okay. International joint ventures and strategic alliances would be where you join jointly with a foreign entity and you work together as two separate companies on a business venture or a deal or a business together. Maybe you do one thing different, and I do something, and together we can create a whole product and we sell it. And foreign direct investments where you directly buy a foreign company, like America buying TikTok or something of that sort. This is just the stuff we went over. A lot of these words here, you see how they're highlighted in black, guys? They're usually definitions. You would see these definitions on the exam. Okay. Licensing, exporting, the types of exporting. Reference your textbooks, read the textbooks, look at the definition of the textbook. That's pretty much that's your exam material there. Okay. So sociocultural forces, obviously, McDonald's is in Japan, McDonald's is in India, McDonald's is in China. It's everywhere. The food is different though, right? So culture very much affects international business trade. It affects how we do things. There's an example here. Coors Brewing Company puts its slogan, "Turn it loose," into Spanish and found that it translated as suffering from diarrhea. So uh, there's problems oftentimes associated with what works in the U.S. doesn't necessarily work overseas, right? So devaluation references where your currency or the exchange rate of your currency is different in relationship to another country. So the euro, for example, it used to be like 20% more than the US dollar. Now it's down. The US dollar is only 4% more than the US dollar. So the euro has devalued in comparison to the US currency. Okay. In fact, actually, the US dollar is very strong right now compared to other countries. So you could actually buy more abroad in buying power with your dollar. This is important because, when you live in the US, you're like, damn, everything's so expensive, right? Then you go to another country, you're like, whoa, I feel like a king out here. And it's funny because it's true. You go to some countries, your dollar buys so much more than what it is in the US. You could feel like a poor man in the US. You could take 50,000 US, go overseas, and you could live like a king. Obviously, there's a reason why your dollar buys so much, because maybe you're living in a developing nation or a third world country or an impoverished area. So the what you get gives you way more, right? But then what are you losing? So those are things to take in consideration. That's why some people, when they retire, they move out of the US, they become expatriates, they live in another country. They got their social security, their pension, and quality of life is better for them. All right. Trade protectionism. I use the example of the Japanese rice, right? If America exports their American rice into Japan, Japan says, whoa, we don't want people buying American rice. We want them buying Japanese rice. So we're going to put a tariff on your rice so that it's more expensive. So then Japanese people buy Japanese rice versus American rice because the tariff puts a tax imposed on the American rice to protect their industry. Okay. So the other thing is each country has its own sort of agreement. North American Free Trade Agreement, United States, Mexico, Canada Agreement. Uh, Sort of piggybacking on the comment I made before, how America does business with China is not the same way they do business with Canada, the same way they do business with Mexico, the same way they do business with Russia. Their agreements are different, the laws are different. It's country by country. There is no one global law in that matter. So those relationships matter. So class, I'm going to end our class session today. I'm going to upload this virtually on YouTube and post the link. And we will see each other again next week, Thursday, same time. Take care,
I
everybody.
have a question. I have a question.
Uh, my class is about to cut off, and could you shoot me and email me the question? Would that be okay?
No, I just where's the YouTube for
I'm
the
gonna
video?
post on announcements. Don't worry.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right, take care, guys.
Thank you, you too.
Have a good one.